Out there, beyond the warmth of the sun, where light itself grows thin and the silence continues into infinity, the journey of the lonely traveler never ends. The first Voyager, launched in 1977, was never intended to live this long, never meant to enter interstellar space, never meant to speak to us nearly half a century later. And yet, against all odds, it still whispers to Earth. For decades, its muffled voice was nothing more than the cold truths of science, magnetic field measurements, counts of cosmic particles, a machine's raw pulse that survived in the abyss. But something else happened. A transmission arrived recently that was not typical, and the data were not nonsense but a message unlike any it had ever sent before. Buried in the static were ordered, deliberate patterns, incredibly precise. There was no noise, and it was not a mistake. It was something else. Within NASA, individuals who initially received the transmission did not respond with celebration or curiosity. They reacted fearfully, considering that Voyager 1, more than any other machine in history, might be speaking for something else. If something out there is using Voyager to communicate with humanity, then we may not be as alone in the cosmos as we once believed. This is the background to the last message from Voyager 1, and why it has caused panic at NASA. To understand the weight of this moment, we need to go back to the beginning. Voyager 1 left Earth in 1977 during the golden age of space exploration. A twin to Voyager 2, it was intended to capture the first views of the outer planets from a distance. It dazzled us with images of Jupiter's tumultuous storms, Saturn's majestic rings, and moons that looked like miniature worlds. However, its purpose was never intended to end there. Gravity assists hurled it out of the planetary area of the solar system, giving it escape velocity and setting it on a path that would ultimately lead beyond the reach of our sun. Scientists believed it would vanish within 10 or 20 years, its systems shutting down quietly in the cold. Its radio voice, on the other hand, thrived for nearly 50 years, growing weaker as it traveled further away but still clear enough to interpret. In 2012, Voyager 1 did what no human artifact had ever done before. It passed through the heliopause, leaving behind the protective bubble of solar particles and entering the true space between stars. Humanity suddenly had a witness outside the influence of our sun, a single ambassador on the water through the haze. For years, what it sent back was thrilling but predictable. Measurements of plasma density, cosmic rays, and winds from other stars. Nothing suggested mystery, only data. Yet, when its most recent message arrived, something inside the familiar rhythm had changed. It seemed as though Voyager's steady voice had broken open, allowing something alien to bleed through. Communicating with Voyager is like listening for the faintest heartbeat in the void. Its 22-watt transmitter, weaker than the light bulb in your refrigerator, now struggles across 15 billion miles, an excursion that takes more than 22 hours to arrive at Earth. When the signal arrives, it is so thin it might be hard to miss in the background noise. And yet, thanks to the enormous dishes of the deep space network, humanity can still hear it. For decades, this connection was comforting, a reminder that, even across impossible distances, we could still reach one of our own creations. But in 2023, the comfort turned to dread. Engineers noticed that incorporated into the routine flow of scientific data were repeating sequences, at first erratic but designed to be ignored as static. The transmission carried what looked like coded information, a rhythm that pulsed against the silence of space. It was deemed by some to be a tainted memory register, a failure of Voyager's hardware. After all, the probe is almost 50 years old, running on technology less advanced than a digital watch. But others were anxious. If it were a glitch, why did the sequences repeat with such precision? Why did the patterns resemble structures too deliberate to be random? As one engineer whispered off the record, it looks like Voyager isn't the only one speaking anymore. The whisper crossed the deep space network, NASA, and finally the world of science. Had Voyager been confronted by something, and was it trying to inform us? The debate quickly turned to unease within NASA. Voyager is more than just a spacecraft, it is a relic and a symbol of optimism carrying the well-known golden record, a human message to the cosmos. For it to now send back something we do not understand is not merely an anomaly. It's an irony that the universe has chosen our vessel to respond to us. Closed-door meetings with officials became more intense, weighing how much to disclose to the public. Could they acknowledge that Voyager's signal had changed, that it contained patterns no one could explain? This ran the risk of sparking speculation about alien contact, something agencies are notoriously cautious to address. However, behind those doors, the whispers grew. Some believed that Voyager had encountered a plasma wave from another galaxy, so unique that it was etched into the signal. Others thought of more radical possibilities yet unexplored, that its weak transmissions had been intercepted by an intelligence and were now responding through the same channel. It begins. Sending messages you cannot decode, the story about how humans ruled over the universe and technology both begin to break. What makes this moment even more haunting is the timing. Voyager 1 is in peril. Its power source, made of plutonium, which has already endured for decades more than expectations, is rapidly fading. One by one, its instruments are being turned off to conserve energy until, shortly before, even its voice will never speak again. This signifies that whatever it sent us just now may be the final thing we hear out of it. And the concluding message, rather than a neat scientific conclusion, has left us with fear and uncertainty. Was it the failing gasp of a dying probe, the last piece of tainted code masquerading as mystery? Or was it precisely what it appeared to be, an intentional pattern, an embedded message in the signal, evidence that something is missing? We have been noticed out there. The irony is devastating. Voyager was sent out as a messenger carrying music and greetings to the stars, expecting no response. However, just as its voice is beginning to fade, it might have provided us with a response of its own, one that nobody understands how to interpret. And that is the possibility that frightens NASA the most, because the last word of humanity's farthest traveler might not be ours. It may belong to the entire universe. As the data spread among teams, NASA's public discourse became less friendly and more calculated. The organization that once shared every Voyager-related update suddenly turned quiet, offering only vague phrases about unexpected telemetry. Tension lurked behind the scenes and rose. Why hide something if it was only a malfunction? Why put off analyzing if it could be answered easily? Engineers who worked on the probe for decades found themselves excluded from private gatherings. Whispers of intelligence agencies, requests for classification, and briefings began to circulate. The silence grew louder than any official declaration. To the general public, NASA appeared to be simply managing aging hardware. But to those who were there, the silence carried a different message. A component of Voyager's last transmission was too disruptive, too dangerous to conceal. The irony could not be ignored. Voyager 1 was launched with a golden record, a message sent by humans to the universe, sounds, greetings in dozens of languages of Earth, and music intended to represent who we are. It was our invitation and gift, our hope that one day someone would locate it. However, now, with its final breath, Voyager had sent back something strange, something undecipherable, and it looked like an answer. Scientists began to consider the possibility that the very broadcasts we made had made us more visible. If this were contact, it wasn't by way of a telescope or a signal from faraway stars. It was through a dying machine we launched half a century ago, a device that may have become the first bridge between humanity and whatever else is out there. Voyager's final transmissions may already be diminishing, and its power is insufficient to sustain its instruments for much longer. However, rather than closing its story in a clear way, it is leaving us with uncertainty and dread. What if the patterns continue? What if the next transmission carries something clearer, something that cannot be missed, that cannot be concealed behind ambiguous NASA statements? And what would happen if it went mute, not because Voyager's power finally passed away, but because some opposing side decided to stop speaking entirely? These are the questions haunting the engineers who wait for each weak pulse across billions of miles. Because now, Voyager's whispers are more than just data, they are a potential sleight of hand. And every time it stops talking, people wonder if we have just heard the last word not only from Voyager but from the unknown waiting in the dim light. Voyager 1 was never supposed to last this long. It was never meant to escape the solar system, never supposed to live beyond its creator's expectations to be speaking with us nearly half a century later. And yet, here it is, still whispering in a place where humans cannot ever see, returning data fragments that may change everything we believe concerning the universe. The final message has not provided us with closure or comfort. It has brought us patterns and fear too precise to be chance, anomalies to plan to be ignored, rhythms that appear more like communication than human or machine error. Inside NASA, the panic is not because Voyager has failed, but because it may have done far too well. For many years, humanity has stared into the void, wondering if anyone was out there. Now, at the very end of its life, Voyager may have responded, but in a language we cannot comprehend yet. Was it just a malfunction, the final flicker of a dying probe? Or was it something else, an echo from beyond the heliosphere, an indication that the universe is not empty but aware? We may never know for sure because Voyager's power source is dwindling, its voice becoming less audible with each year that goes by. It will soon be silent forever. And when that happens, we will have nothing left but questions, haunted by the possibility that Voyager, in its final breath, became the first human-made object to encounter the unknown. The panic at NASA has nothing to do with what was heard. It is about what might have been left unmentioned, what might be waiting for the next signal, the next whisper amid the imminent silence. Because the most terrifying thing in the universe is not that it never speaks. It's the idea that something out there already has our message and is deciding whether or not to respond back.